You're still alive.
I sure am.
How is this possible? I saw you die.
You only thought you saw me die.
What do you mean?
Let me explain. First, I found a reddish-orange liquid that only looked like blood. Then I poured it all over myself.
Oh, and see, I would never know the difference because my sense of smell is so poor.
Then I used my ninjutsu training to make it look as if my body had gone into rigor mortis.
Right, because I wouldn't even think to check your pulse.
And then I held my breath for 10 seconds.
Oh, and I only waited 9. Wow, Kayla, you thought of everything.
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why am I such a moron?
I don't know. Why are you such a moron?
I'm not much of a public speaker. I spend most of my time sitting in a basement over a drawing board by myself for hours at a time, so you'll have to excuse me if I'm a little nervous. But they say you're supposed to picture the audience in their underwear, which I don't know if that's really a good idea because my parents are sitting right there, so I'm going to skip that. Anyways, I guess what I'm going to talk about tonight is sort of how a kid who grew up in Woodslee ends up writing for DC Comics. And the funny thing is, the way I got there was writing comics about a kid growing up in Woodslee, reading DC Comics. It's kind of been a long and sometimes hard road, but hopefully I can sort of shed some light on the process and on how the area itself, the county, has informed my work and sort of helped me develop my own style of storytelling. And, I guess we tried to figure out where to start with this, and really it all starts at Saddler's grocery store in Essex, which I don't know if it's still there or not, but for whatever reason, right from the beginning, I was just drawn to comic books, and I'd just read anything I could get my hands on, and I'd just spend hours at a time, sitting in my room reading them. And and the funny thing is, for whatever reason, the superheroes I always loved were always DC superheroes like Superman and Batman. But it wasn't just reading comics that really captured my attention. I think part of it was it became right away it became an interactive thing with me where I was also drawing comics right away. I mean, as with most kids who start drawing, most of my early stuff would just be sitting there and copying pictures from my favorite artists, and mostly just superheroes and things like that. And I don't know, at some point it stopped becoming me just copying drawings, and I started to realize that these drawings were actually done by real people and not just by some machine somewhere. And once you realize they're done by real people, you start to think that maybe one day you could do that. But as I said, you realize most of these artists and publishers are all from New York City, and when you're a kid in Woodslee, New York City might as well be Mars because it's just so far away. And I never really thought I could have much of a career drawing comics or doing comics. So for me, it was always just a fun thing. And at some point, it stopped being me just copying other people's work and me, creating my own stories and my own characters. And I think when it was time to go to university, the idea of getting out of Essex County and going to the big city of Toronto was really exciting to me because I never really connected much to the farm or that sort of lifestyle as a kid. So I went to film school at Ryerson in Toronto. And I think probably a lot of the reasons that brought me there was the idea of still telling stories and using images to tell stories. And for me, film was a way I thought of doing that and maybe working in that industry and making a career as well. And I think it was my time there, I really stopped reading comics actually for a few years and just got really into movies and other types of storytelling. And, but sometime around the 3rd or 4th year in the program doing film, I just became really disillusioned because I would have ideas in my head of things I wanted to say or stories I wanted to tell, but trying to communicate that through actors and through a crew and through trying to get a budget because film is very expensive as well. And by the time something came out on the screen, it was so different from what I pictured in my head that it was inevitably just disappointing, and I became kind of disillusioned with the idea of pursuing film. And I think I stumbled into a couple of comic shops in Toronto, and I sort of stumbled upon a lot of the independent and underground comics that were coming out from the States at the time. And for me, that was I grew up reading the superhero stuff and everything, which I still love, but it's when I started to see some of the things that were being done with graphic novels and with comics, it just really opened my eyes to the possibilities that this medium, can offer. Really, when you can combine words and drawings on a page to tell a story, it's pretty limitless in what you can do as long as you have the imagination to carry through an idea. And that really changed my perspective on comics and on maybe that was a way I could tell these stories I wanted to tell, because to me it just seemed so much more direct. I could just sit down at a desk and draw something and it would just come directly out of me, and I didn't have to worry about filtering it through other people, and it just seemed there wasn't a lot of, I guess, other than writing novels, there really isn't much more. There isn't a more immediate art form that I could think of to tell my stories. And as soon as I graduated from film school, I just pretty much had enough of that, and I got jobs working in kitchens around Toronto at night, and I just started drawing all day, and I did that that was probably 99 or 2000. I started doing that, and I would spend 6 or 8 hours a day drawing, and then I'd go work in a kitchen all night and just keep doing it. And I probably produced, I don't know, thousands of pages of comics in that 5-year period that were just completely terrible and weren't worth reading. But each time I did a new page, I learned a little bit more and I got a little bit better at it. And I guess there must have been some spark of something in there that kept me going each day. And gradually over time, I think I got better and better, and I started to see a lot of self-publishing as a real option with comics, where you can just go to Kinko's and photocopy your drawings and staple them together and sort of sell them around at little local shops or record stores and things. So I just started doing that, and probably much to my parents' dismay, that didn't really have a lot of promise for making a career for myself, but I did it anyway because it's what I love doing, and did that for a couple of years, and then I was lucky enough to win, as Dale said, a Xeric grant, which is a grant offered by, funny enough, it's one of the guys who created the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He offers this grant, 5 of these grants every year, to up-and-coming comic book self-publishers. I applied for that, I think, 3 years in a row before I got it finally, for a book called Lost Dogs, which Dale talked about, which was really the first long-form work that I did that was, I thought, worth maybe putting out there into the world. So I got this grant, and through that I was able to distribute the book, across North America. It didn't change my life financially in any way. I think I only sold about 600 copies over 2 years or something, but at any rate, it was enough to at least have something published to show publishers, and that was a big step for me. And after I finished Lost Dogs, I sort of floundered in terms of trying to look for what kind of stories I wanted to tell and what I wanted to write about and draw about. And I think I probably started and stopped a few projects in that time that just didn't really go anywhere. I didn't really appreciate Essex County or the landscape or anything when I was here, but the distance that I had after living in Toronto for, I guess at that point, 6 or 8 years, and sort of that perspective that time and distance can give you on a place, I really started to see the landscape of Essex County as a really beautiful thing. Just all the open spaces and just the worn old farm equipment and the old silos and windmills along the road, and these things just started to fill up in my sketchbooks, and it just became sort of an obsession of mine again to start drawing and writing about where I came from.
And he makes a deal with the devil because he reads the scripture and his satanic Bible.